What up, friends? This is the mentality of combat. It's number 3. We actually did a show very similarly titled at my old job.
Yes.
And we probably did 30 or 40?
Maybe even more.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. By the time we were kind of into doing it, it felt like, oh, yeah, it's David. Yeah, I probably hung out with him like 12 or 15 times, but it was 30, 40.
Times,
I know. Yeah, it's wild. But like anything, ideas lead to new ideas, and things that I learned from chatting with you gave me new questions, and that's part of the fun. But thank you for joining us on the YouTube channel. You can't see here, but we've got our friends on Periscope, because whenever you're watching this, when we did it live, we invited people to pop in on Periscope, which is kind of fun. We may try to get some of their questions. It's very difficult because they go by very quickly, and we're probably going to get into it, especially Mayweather and McGregor. Mayweather and McGregor, like...
It's crazy that it's happening.
That's actually happening.
Because I remember when it was first mentioned, I laughed at it. I mocked people that were saying that it's going to happen.
Of course.
I mocked Colin Cowherd and all those people. Because it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid that this fight's happening. But as it got, it became obvious that this is actually going to happen, and now it's done. Yeah. And then you have to look at it like a fight and see what's going on with it now, because there's. Like Conor has a chance, right? Whatever that chance is, he does have a chance. People are like, does he have a puncher's chance? Yeah, he has a chance. He could. There is
puncher's
a
chance is that's just a cliche term. Yeah. We're not big fans of cliche terms around here these days.
But there is a chance. There's a chance, like you said the other day, that you wake up Sunday morning and Conor had won that fight. Yeah. So it is like it's fascinating. I think it'll be interesting in the build up to this in terms of the mental side of things, because. Obviously, we all know Conor's really good with that stuff. Yeah, Floyd is too, though.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And
maybe the best ever. Well, maybe the second best in boxing after Muhammad Ali. Yeah, there have been other greats at the game, but Floyd. So let me backtrack a little bit. It's stupid that it's happening. Why is it stupid? And why would this happen? This would happen. There are a number of reasons, machines that would want to make this happen. The UFC, Mayweather Promotions, anybody investing money in it, they will all make money. But the reason this will not happen is because it doesn't make any sense. Unless Conor McGregor either just was playing a trick on the world and wants to make $80 million, or believes he can win.
Or both.
Or both. Yeah, true. They're not independent of each other. Yeah. But I think he believes he can win.
100% believe he thinks he can win. Like 100% he believes it. Like,
you believe that's what he believes.
100% that's what I think he believes. And I don't believe it 100% at all. No. And very few people would, who actually know what they're talking about. But he does, and that's kind of what matters for him. He 100% believes that he will go on that night and knock him out.
And knock out somebody who's hard to touch and has never lost to the best fighters in the world. Yeah. Now let's just start with the belief. So Oscar de la Hoya and others like those, he's delusional. Yeah. Because they can't picture a scenario in which he could possibly win, so only a delusional person would believe that he could win.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on there too with Oscar. He had a goal. Yeah. And he didn't. He failed. Yeah, right. Right. So the idea of someone who's never boxed coming in and doing what he couldn't do, that's impossible. Same with Pacquiao, same with all these guys that are saying stuff. There's a bit on there, and other boxers too who are, they're sticking up for their sport a little bit. It doesn't make sense.
But they're not, actually. That's the weird part.
They think they are, maybe.
Maybe they think they are. But if your thing that you believe so fully has the chance to just destroy and strut its way out of there and go, of course, this was ridiculous. No one who does that lowly thing could ever deal with this thing. You should just welcome it, get this thing done, have this Irish kid annihilated, and then move on and say, we told you so. But there is this feeling of discomfort in boxing, right? And boxing is not a group of people. But in the world around it, there's a discomfort that they have over this.
In the most part, there's a lot of cool, like Andre Ward gets MMA in a big way, and he seems like really like in tune with how the sports are different and all that kind of stuff. But there's some others that are just, it's like they haven't watched UFC 1 or something. Yeah, it's like they don't understand that mixed martial arts is the best form of fighting in terms of a competition. If you do MMA, you're gonna beat any boxer, any whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there is this little, and I remember when I used to train in London, the gym was like, it really was a mixed martial arts gym. It wasn't an MMA gym. There was a Taekwondo coach, and there was a boxing coach, and there was a Jiu-Jitsu coach. There wasn't an MMA team as such. It was just all these different martial arts were there. And I remember having arguments almost with the boxing guy about MMA and Jiu-Jitsu and stuff, where he saw it as they're just not very good boxers, these guys.
Right.
And
that is still said. Things like that are still said.
And him not getting like that. He said they're not the best at jiu-jitsu, they're not the best at boxing, they're not. But I was like, but they're the best at MMA. Yeah. MMA is a skill in itself, and they don't get that. So I think
it's gone beyond that. Even now, free fighting is the superior type of fighting when you fight.
Yes.
When you create a rule structure under which the other guy, the free fighter, is not allowed to do anything except the thing you're really good at, that changes. But the real world doesn't work that way. Contests do work that way, and this contest will work that way. But free fighting beats all.
Yeah, of course. You know? But I think there's a little bit of fear in some of these guys talking about that, in terms of they're afraid that what if he does win? What does that mean for me and for what Santa Claus isn't real then anymore,
right?
And there's also a bit of jealousy in terms of he's walking in there, his first pro fight, first amateur fight, in terms of not underage,
right?
And he's getting that big of a payday, but the biggest fight of all time. So it doesn't make sense to someone who grows up in the boxing world.
True. And so
we're not in that world, you know.
Let's make sense of that, why and how some people feel like that. What is happening, again, it's a discomfort with what is going on, is that, you know, that thing, like, I could give you a personal example. If I was a better commentator than a very famous person, I'd be like, but this is, and they got the job. I'd be like, this is insane. I'm infinitely better commentator than this famous actor. But then I'm ignoring the fact that in the world we live in, you would make that choice based strictly on the fact that he had 7 million Instagram followers. Yeah. So I'm upset about the reality of the world. The reality of the world is this guy has 7 million Instagram followers and 10 million Twitter followers. I do not. That supersedes this skill in the reality of the context of that world. So, and that is exactly what we're seeing here. But wait, this guy isn't a real boxer. He's not as good as any of these 1,000 boxers, so they feel. But what you're not understanding is his excitement, popularity, how interested people are in him, how desperate they are to see this moment in time. Those things supersede boxing records.
Completely.
They supersede boxing skill in the why this happens. So our options are, we can, as people, we can sit around and we can complain about it. This is not fair. Back in my day, they used to hire the best boxer or the best commentator. Or we can say, this is the truth of the world we live in, and we figure out how to live in that world. You know?
And that truth you live in is going to happen whether or not you believe it or how you feel about it. So you can be bitter, or you can just get on with it and do your thing, because it's not going to change.
The world doesn't care that you think it's unfair.
And sometimes things are not fair.
No,
very much so.
This is unfair if you are a lifelong boxer who is number 8 in the world, or number 4 in the world in one of the divisions that Floyd has competed
Floyd's
in.
coming back. And you should be the guy getting that fight.
It isn't fair.
No,
but that's the world you live in, and so. And this is a little off topic, but it connects to mentality and training and fighting in life. The idea of the complaint, to me, and this is the term I've used to describe it. It's inaction described as action, or it's inaction that feels like an action, or you know what I mean.
It depends on the situation. I mean, sometimes if there's something that can be changed, it can be done, and if you don't complain,
for sure,
you fucked up. But in a situation like this, you're just moaning, you're whinging, you're not even complaining, you know.
Yeah, it's true.
There's nothing going to change with this. Everyone's excited to see this.
Well, that term everyone.
Everyone's excited to see this because even the people that are pissed off, they're still going to have a little peek in and see what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're emotional about this, then that means you care. So that means you're going to watch, even if it's, even if you're going to peek in afterwards and see what happened.
I try to point this one out to people when I'm chatting with them about it, and they hate Conor McGregor, or they're like on Twitter saying that this is a travesty. Their passion, even if it's an angry passion, is proof of their engagement. It's proof of the fact that they're interested. Like, I would never. So apparently. The Mummy is like the worst movie in the world. Right?
I can imagine.
Yeah. So apparently this is the worst movie in the world. You know what I would not do? Go on Twitter and talk about how this movie is terrible.
I'll never see it. There's things out there that there's musicians, if you want to call them that, pop stars out there. I have no idea who they are. They're terrible. And they're none of my business. It's nothing to do with me. Every now and again I'll hear something and I know, that stinks, and I'll just change it. Nothing to do with me. But if you're emotionally charged and you're going to start complaining about it, then you're into it. You're invested. You're part of you're part of what's driving that thing, whether it's positive or negative. The haters of Conor and Floyd are driving them just as much as the fans are. They're driving that popularity.
Big time. So that was something that I've been thinking about a lot. It's something of the right now of our world, at least in the Western Hemisphere, is influence, right? Yeah. Influence. Tom Cruise was in that terrible movie apparently because he's popular, right? The Rock, who is very cool. Everybody likes The Rock, I think. He will be paid like $100,000 to wear a T-shirt and take a picture with it because he has influence. Yeah. It's a very right now thing, and that's what Conor is playing with or manipulating or dealing in, is sort of a global influence.
I was talking about this the other day with my wife and some of my friends. They were sitting around, and one of them piped up, "Oh, Conor posted," and I was thinking to myself, it's an event when he tweets something now, which is kind of crazy.
It is insane.
Not kind of crazy, but that's true. It becomes an event when certain influencers like that actually tweet or post an Instagram pic or whatever it is. That's an event people are waiting for, the next one.
So when I was a kid, and if I really liked in high school, I liked like Motley Crue and Poison and some of these bands, right? And when they had a new poster out, and I saw in a magazine that new poster was out, I would go into Winnipeg and buy it.
Oh yeah.
Right? Now that would be what you just described.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the same thing.
It's the same
and
thing.
You get and it is weird because most of these people will never meet these influencers that these celebs that they're looking up to. They'll never meet them, but they still feel a connection with them. And I'm saying I have that too. Yeah. With certain footballers I grew up watching, or comedians, or whatever it is, and you feel a connection to these people, and fighters now too that I don't work with and I never meet and I might never meet, but I feel some kind of a connection to them. Just like you're along for the ride with them. So
you don't, to my knowledge, and like I wouldn't normally ask you, but I'm pretty sure you don't work with Robbie Lawler.
No, never met Robbie. Don't know anything about Robbie.
But you do know things about
I know
Robbie.
Lots about Robbie.
You know what I mean? You know lots about Robbie Lawler. And we have talked in depth about what it was like for him potentially to win a title, and what going through having won it would look like next, and then next, and then next. So on some level you feel connected to Robbie Lawler, but you've never met the man.
No, never met him. Yeah. No. And there's the same kind of thing with BJ Penn. I feel something there with him. I've never met the guy. Yeah. And some of the lads were on The Ultimate Fighter when he was coaching, and they said he was just a cool guy.
Yeah, what you would think.
Awesome guy and everything like that. But I've never, I'm connected to him. Comedians, like celebrities sometimes that, like Gary Shandling died a few years ago, Patrice O'Neill died a few years ago. I cared because I felt like I was big fans of those guys and watching their stuff and everything. And there's sometimes that really hits you, and it doesn't make sense, but there is definitely something there where you feel connection. And that's that thing that Conor has. I'd say more so than Floyd, but Floyd has it too, where there's just some kind of a thing that people feel connected to these guys, and it supersedes all logic in terms of he's not ranked. He's not. But it doesn't matter. The people are drawn to watch these, and when you put them together like this, the term super fight is overused. Yeah. But this is that thing where it's two of those together.
For sure. The greatest rapper in the world and some young rapper that just started who was super popular, this guy would look at that guy and go, this will be great if we bring this together. Particularly the fact I'm way better than him. And that's kind of what Floyd, I'm sure, is thinking. He's like, are you kidding me? For number 50, I could have what, at least on paper, at least in the early stages of thinking it, would be the easiest fight that I've ever had. To break a record for the most wins undefeated at 50 and make more money than I ever made to fight guys that were this close to me. Oh yeah, I got to do this. Mm-hmm. You would think in the early stages that was a part of the why from his mentality.
Of course, and I'm sure it's the main part of his thinking for it. And I'm sure he does think it's going to be the easiest night of his career. And logic would tell him that. Mm-hmm. And it is going to be it's going to be bigger than the Pacquiao pay-per-view, mm-hmm. I would say, based on the way things are looking right now in terms of the buzz that's there compared to that one. So yeah, it's amazing for him as well that this is actually happening. It's kind of one of those that suits everyone now. Yes. But there's still going to be a competition.
Right.
There's still as much of an event as this is, there's still a competition, and there'll be a winner and a loser at the end of it. And that, to me, there's some stuff around that which is, fascinating from a mental point of view.
For sure. The strange thing about it for me, when I analyze the disruptive nature of what you're looking at, if you take one of the most popular people on late night television, say, you take, who's that guy on the Tonight Show?
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. And you put Jimmy Fallon on some kind of thing with some YouTube star that everybody likes. And all of a sudden, Jimmy Fallon could look old and boring and retro and overproduced, and the young guy would look young and cool and whatever. The only thing is, this is fucking boxing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This isn't like just popularity or sizzle or the ability to be new and make something else seem old. The ideas are all the same in principle. What we're saying could happen, what Conor believes could happen, is the same as some YouTube sensation making Jimmy Fallon look like the old, boring grandfather on television. But the difference is you have to actually go and beat the best boxer of the generation. Mm-hmm. That you can't do with will, or you can't do because you're younger and cooler.
No, it's still a boxing match.
That's right.
There's still jabs and hooks and defense and everything. So that's where it's that's what to me is going to be fascinating here is like Conor's great mentally. He's broken guys mentally before the fight.
Yes.
That might happen here, but it's very unlikely because and for the same reason that Nate wasn't broken either, because Floyd understands that game.
Right.
Because he's done that to guys. He's got the guys emotional that he wanted to get emotional. Oscar De La Hoya springs to mind where it gets him riled up, gets him emotional. I know he's selling pay-per-views. I know he's selling tickets. But he's also getting to the guys. You see Floyd doing this all the time where if he sees a threat, he'll talk shit to them. He'll talk them. He'll talk down to them. If he's trying to really sell the pay-per-view, and he like Robert Guerrero and Berto, he's trying to build them up.
Right.
He's trying to talk them up and hype them up as this is this guy's good, this guy's dangerous, and he's a hell of a fighter, and all this kind of bullshit. He knows himself. This is a cakewalk. But he's just trying to sell pay-per-views. When he's threatened a little bit, he'll talk shit about the guy. And it'll be interesting to see what he does with Conor, because he's done a bit of both with that so far. But it'll be interesting when they get face to face in the press conference, and as it gets closer, we'll see what he's starting to think about it. If he's or like Conor's going to outdo him. Conor's funnier than him, smarter than him, wittier than him, all that kind of stuff. He can't live in that way. It'll just be interesting to see how he reacts to it, how Floyd reacts to it all.
And how he reacts if he feels embarrassed at a certain time, or if he feels disrespected or any of those things. The truth is, you've said this a million times, and I'm sure you've said it a million times in the role of coach. any of these things can be made meaningless on fight day. So we could watch this entertaining adventure and sparring match and chess match, but it can all be made meaningless on fight day.
Yeah, if Floyd just goes in and just does what he wanted to do, executes, and isn't emotional and isn't trying to, whatever it is, get back at the guy or anything like that, doesn't take him lightly, he just goes in and handles business, none of that stuff matters. But it's happened so many times where guys are trying too hard, trying to shut you up, whatever it might be, because they've been emotional in the build-up. That's what I'm saying. Look, Floyd is good at that stuff in terms of knowing how the mind games work. So then you're less likely to be affected by it. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any bite there. There's obvious stuff you could say. I mean, the guy has been convicted of beating women, so
and that's
a scumbag. But
and that I would assume will get said. I mean, but so let's say you're Floyd's coach or mental coach or close friends or whatever. We're going to be prepared for that. We're going to want to be prepared for the fact that this guy will bring these things up.
Yeah, I mean, he has to expect it. Yeah. I don't know if he has someone around that's going to speak to him like that, but he'll be aware of it himself. He'll be smart enough himself to expect it. But until it gets said in the moment, then we'll see how he reacts to it. If it gets said and all that kind of stuff. But that's like anything else. He'll just know that it's just part of the fight business and part of what fighters might say. So that I can imagine it's harder to get him riled up like that than it would be to get if Conor was fighting Pacquiao or De La Hoya or something like that. Those guys would be. If you have way more ammunition, it's easier to get them going. So and they don't understand that game as well as Floyd does. It's not just fight promotion and selling pay-per-views that it's more than that. It's getting to the opponent at the same time.
So let's dig into that a little bit, because this comes up in conversation with fans and friends and stuff. People be like, who's winning the mind games? But that's not a real way to look at it either. Like, this isn't like, on fight night we work back to the 4 weeks out that we see somebody and it's like day one victory for you and day two, oh, he got it back. That's how we observe it sometimes as fans, but that is not necessarily how anything is taking shape in the actual psychological battle between people.
I mean, there definitely can be a psychological battle in the build-up, and a lot of the stuff that fighters have told me in the build-up is subtle things that the opponent would have said that they didn't even know was going to affect the guy, and it's got to them a little bit, and they had themselves doubting, and it needs to be addressed. But yeah, the stuff that gets said, it can be just that. It can be just stuff that gets said, and then you go in and you just go and compete and separate the two.
And regardless of the intent of what somebody says, the reaction of the way the audience interprets it is something for us and something for fans and something that creates debate and discussion. But the actual way that they're engaged psychologically is very rarely even remotely similar to the way that the audience interprets it.
100%.
Almost never.
Yeah.
Because, oh, he said that, oh, he's got to be mad. If it's obvious to you that it would make him mad, it's something that probably doesn't make him...
It's the subtle things that the guy didn't even know he said that sometimes gets to them.
Yeah.
Or even a body language thing, or just the way they look physically, like how in shape they are can have a guy doubting himself and all that kind of different stuff. And sometimes, like, Conor got to Dustin, Conor got to Eddie. It didn't matter though. He's a superior martial artist, and that was the bigger part of those victories. That it gets overstated as well, and it takes away from the actual skill set, the technical and physical skill set as well, which in this matchup is the other way around completely.
So because logically, people can imagine that if somebody who doesn't really know how to fight, like people, well, he's very confident or he got inside his head. If people take, a guy who's fought 2 amateur boxing matches and a jiu-jitsu blue belt who, was 0-2 in MMA, and that guy gets in the other guy's head and is supremely confident, there's no way he can win, right? So people can kind of see that connection. Or the thing that you'll see a lot is, regular guys like, oh man, if Brendan Thatch or BJ Penn, if he comes near my girl, I'm going to lay him out. I don't care how much MMA he knows. I'm going to fuck that guy up. We know that guy can't actually do that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the disconnect between confidence or self-belief or any of those things and skill, by using extreme examples, you can go, oh yeah, right. They're not really.
How does that play out?
Yeah, right.
Let's play it out and see what happens step by step. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that that's exactly what we have here. But there is, Floyd is not just undefeated 49-0. He is masterful at what he does, at what he does. People might not be excited by it. I think he's been one of my favorite fighters to watch from the get-go.
Yeah.
And he's got better at what he does. He used to be a little bit more exciting when he was younger, and then as he's moved up, he's become even more aware of how he wins fights and like some of the performances he's put on against guys, like
incredible.
When he fought Marquez, it was just incredible, because Marquez has done that to other guys. He's outboxed, and then it doesn't make sense how much levels above he was. So for Conor to win this one, he'll need Floyd to not be at his best. He'll need Floyd to have slowed down, have got old, have not been training, have just got back into the gym, or overconfident, more like.
Right.
And just turning up like Luke Rockhold did against Bisping, just showing up ready to. Why do we even have to do this? Kind of attitude. If you're not right with the intensity level, early on, then you can be, caught maybe. So that's when there's a chance. It's more, I think, that Floyd isn't at his best and is far from his best, and then there's he could get clipped or whatever could happen.
Sure. But okay, so in that scenario,
it's more Floyd doing something to Floyd, I think, and that's no disrespect to Conor, but I think that's that scenario that if Conor is to prevail here, it's a lot about Floyd not living up to what Floyd can do.
So under that scenario, if that, I don't think Conor believes that, but let's say that's the reality, and let's say we agree on that. Conor
has a part to play in that.
Yes, I was going to say Conor has a part to play, and his team, and the strategy, and his actions, and the psychological games. He has a part to play to create a scenario in which he has a lesser Floyd, which you're feeling we'd have to have. The difficult challenge for that, if we believe we need that, is if we don't start seeing it or we start to doubt it. So I need you to be undermined. I need you to be less than your best. I need you to doubt it or be overconfident or something.
Yeah.
When I don't see that start to happen, I can't let that shake me.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at this from a fan perspective, right? I'm not involved in this fight at all. But Conor just has to go and do his thing. Right. Needing the guy to see a crack in the guy or see him to get a little bit, whatever it is, that's none of his business, and that has been the case. Right. If there's a crack in the guy and he starts to break beforehand, that's a bonus, but that's not the objective, and you still have to go and do your thing anyways, even if you see that in the build-up. So, and even if you see it during the fight, you still have to perform. Conor, this is the thing, and some guys have frozen on the stage against Floyd. Mm-hmm. They haven't.
They're frozen against Conor too.
Yes, I was just going to say, if they had it back over straight away in the dressing room, they're like, I wish I went for it more, or I wish I did this. I didn't execute what I wanted to do.
I was too tentative.
I was mesmerized by him. Right. It's Floyd that's in there, and you start to play his game.
Right.
And I'm sure Canelo afterwards was thinking, why didn't I do
box like that?
Why didn't I do what I was going to do, or what I planned to do, and all the different stuff. They didn't. That's the biggest fight that they've ever been in.
Right.
Even Oscar, at the time, who had been in huge fights, that was still the biggest one at the time for him. And he came on late in that fight, but didn't start great at all. And that's true for lots of these fights. It's the stage it's the Floyd Mayweather fight. That became true later on, after the Gaddy fight or around that time. It became the big event in boxing. When is Floyd fighting again? And the B side of that is on the biggest stage he's ever been on. Conor's going to handle this easy. You know, Conor's going to handle that easily. That's not an issue for him. He's going to show up and he's going to put in his performance.
He believes he was meant to do that. 5 years ago, he would have told you one day he'll be doing this.
Yes, oh yeah, for sure. He's the one who came up with this idea of fighting Floyd. You know, and it wasn't just this crazy. It was a thing that this can happen. This is a real thing, and not just that. He really thinks he can beat the guy as well. So he's going to perform to his best on the night. There's been 2 times that I've known that I've seen Conor not perform to the level where he would have wanted to, and I think both of those occasions he was a little overconfident, or false confidence. Whereas the Nate Diaz one and the Joe Duffy fight back in the day, that was
2 losses.
2 losses, yeah, and I mean he had a pretty solid career when you look at his record. He's not just wins but like quick finishes and stuff like that. The Joe Duffy fight I remember because it was the first fight where I had been aware of Conor before he fought. So Aisling was on the card the same night. It was in Cork in Cage Warriors, and
you were working with Aisling.
I was working with Aisling. Cahill fought on that card as well. Ayrton fought on that card as well. There was a big SPG.
Did he keep it flowing?
Yeah, there was a big SPG list on that card. But I was working with Aisling only at the time. But Conor was the guy in the gym that you were kind of aware of, and starting to have this thing of this guy who was, you know, putting people away. So he obviously got submitted quick, arm triangle first round, very quickly. But it was just because he wasn't. He was a little bit false confidence in terms of his stand-up skill compared to what the reality was for grappling.
It doesn't matter if you're taking me down. I'm going to knock you out the second my left hand touches you.
There was it was a little bit like he had a lot in place already, but then how he reacted to that was he just completely became obsessed with the grappling side of things and really threw himself into the sport fully. And the next year he had 5 or 6 wins and all finishes, and he was starting to really go. And then we just saw that every time since then until the Nate 1 fight where he had just knocked out Aldo first round, and I think he got a little bit,
170 no problem, 2 weeks no problem, and a southpaw that's taller than me no problem, whatever, I'll touch this guy, he'll go to sleep.
He wasn't prepared himself, and that's on him, but prepared for the challenge that was ahead, and that was proven by the second time around where he really became
addressed the things fading at this point
and put the work in, and that's still my favorite performance by a fighter of all time is that Conor Diaz 2 where he straight back in and everything like that. It's phenomenal, really. But the so those were the 2 that I didn't see him at his best, and it was more to do with the false confidence kind of thing, and maybe taking them a little bit lightly or not getting himself in that place. He'll have himself in that place for this fight. He feels like he's been. People talking nonsense about this idea of he's got nothing to lose. That's not an idea that would ever enter that guy's head.
Yeah.
He's going in there. He's got nothing to lose. He's going to lose.
Just going to go for it.
It's just boxing anyway. So who cares? He's come back to UFC. That's not a mindset that he would allow himself to have, that nothing to lose mindset. That would be something that you hear people saying it, and it gives me an idea of what their mindset would be in a similar situation, just taking the pressure off, and similar situations, not just that. They're never going to be in that situation, but similar ones. Take the pressure off themselves is what they're trying to do. That's what they're projecting onto him. He's going to embrace all of that. He's not going to take any pressure off in terms of I've got nothing to lose, I might as well just go out there and have fun with it. And he's going out there to win, and he's training to win, and he's preparing to win, and he will handle the occasion. That's not an issue here. That's not the occasion is not an issue.
The biggest challenge of any boxer in the world to a guy who's
that's something he embraces. Embraces big challenges.
Just a little thing for viewers. If anybody has, I just thought of this now. If anybody has any footage of Conor fighting in a boxing ring, fighting MMA in a boxing ring, I'd like to see it. because I haven't found very much of it. But that's an off. I mean, at this point, we have to make some of these things irrelevant. Okay, we're boxing. We're not a boxer. We're in a boxing ring instead of a cage. We have rounds. With my job, so actually what people want from me when we're chatting is they know I'm an enormous Conor McGregor fan, and they know I believe in that some things that seem impossible to people can be possible. And that the idea that it's only possible if you believe you can do it. There's a number of things that fold in, growth and striving to improve and giving yourself challenges, and all of those things I love about Conor McGregor as a fan. I'm also an enormous fan of his, and I've also studied him in depth. So what people want from me is, well, what about fighting from like a different range? Or what about like the fact that striking is different and Floyd isn't familiar with it? Or, what about like, how hard he hits?
How you tie him up on the inside?
Yeah. Maybe he'll rough him up. Like they want some technical explanation of how to beat Floyd Mayweather. And I'm sorry, I can't give that, because if it exists, the greatest boxing and combat minds in the world with the greatest athletes ever have tried to find it and could not. So I in no way would presume to be able to say what it could be.
Here's how to beat Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'll see that. You'll see some people who call themselves combat analysts say, here's how to beat Floyd Mayweather, even though they've never fought, which is absurd. We shouldn't take any of that seriously, because what you sink in is, well, if you had Canelo and you had the best training partners, and you had inside information, and you had 5 years to prepare, and you had all of this stuff, I'm sorry, I can't give you a scenario in which we win this, which forces me to then say, if he won that, there's some piece of information that we're missing. And then it becomes about a study to figure out what that piece is. Now, if he loses, which is the most likely scenario, such a piece didn't exist on this night. If he wins, we need to figure out how that's possible. And it's an interesting, from my obsession, it's an interesting sort of scenario. It's like people, to be able to really tell the story is the goal, my goal. Not to be able to like sound smart or, be right.
Yeah, predicted properly.
Yeah, or even, like the desire to learn more about what's actually happening in there is my motivation. And I know the motivation of a lot of people who purely love the sport and combat and fighting. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one because the conversations about fighting will start with, he has no chance. To which we have, okay, so one person says that. We have two reactions to that. You're right, conversation's over. Or maybe there is some chance, conversation continues.
Yes.
Then the other person goes, you're an idiot, he has no chance, he's fought the best boxers in the world, that guy doesn't even know how to box. Okay, you're right, conversation over. Or, well, and that thing can go on for a long, long time, but it results still in me having to say, but there are some things we don't understand. And that's not a very good answer.
Yeah, no, but sometimes that is the only answer. Yeah. And another thing with this is, can like if they fought 10 times or 100 times, all this kind of stuff, they're fighting one time on August 26th.
That's
so
right.
if you're not ready to go on August 26th, that's the night to do it. That's the time to do it. That's right. That thing. It's now, and that's the part where that could be the missing part, where Floyd just isn't there on that night.
Right.
With the right level of intensity, or came in with like
true focus,
not fully there, not switched on, or massively overconfident, or whatever it might have been, or is just slowed down now. Reflexes are gone.
So on Periscope, how to beat Floyd? Fight him when he's 40 and coming off a 2-year retirement.
That's got to be part of it. Yeah. That has to be a part of that. That's your best chance. Of his career so far in terms of that side of things athletically. Mm-hmm. And he's the oldest he's ever been now. Right. He's the oldest he has ever been.
And he'll be even older on August 26th.
Yes, he will be. Yeah,
he'll be even older than he's ever been that night. Yeah. So will Conor. And so will you and I. Yeah. We'll all be the oldest we've ever been on that night. But yes, so that is a part of it. But even that, so then you have a conversation about strategy. Okay, well, will Floyd have a ring rust? Well, no. 2 years and 40 is nothing. That guy, he is more comfortable there than he is in the world.
Plus, the ring rust isn't a real thing. So right. that's not a thing. He came back. The Marquez fight, he came back after a long layoff.
Yeah,
that was spectacular. So it's not going to be that. It's just going to be if he's not right on the night. If he's not switched on, ready to go fully. Like the Maidana fight. Like it was closer than even the scorecards maybe had at the first one, but a lot of the reason that it wasn't how well Maidana fought, it was how Floyd wasn't right on that night. He wasn't himself. He wasn't switched on. And he proved it the second time.
Right.
You know, and again, some of that was Maidana wasn't right on the second night because of the big payday and all that kind of stuff, but Floyd wanted to go again to right that because he knew himself it wasn't him at his best. He wanted to go back and get it. Same with Castillo. And these nights where he's, you know, if you're just not fully on, then you can get clipped. If Rockhold fights Bisping 5 more times, he might beat him every single time.
Right.
But on that night, that second fight, he got knocked out.
So. And I think people...
Because he wasn't right.
Yes, I think people see that. And I think and it isn't just when somebody better loses to someone worse or somebody not quite as talented, according to the opinions of some educated people. George St. Pierre losing to Matt Serra the first time, it isn't just that George is the better fighter and yet he lost. George didn't show up. And he knows it. Even Matt knows it. But in no way does that undermine the fact that Matt Serra knocked out George St. Pierre and won the title that he'll own forever.
Yeah.
That is not his problem.
No.
He earned that. But so I think people see that is a possibility.
That has to be part of that to me, that needs to be part. If we're waking up Sunday morning and Conor's won, that's definitely part of the story.
Part of the story. Now, so we'll get back to that in a second, but I think the same. Chris Weidman is fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Chris Weidman hasn't shown up every minute of every fight all the time, especially in the last 2 years. Kelvin will show up on the night. And as soon as I saw that kind of dynamic, and while I was watching fights from both of them, at first I was like, Chris is way too big, he's way too strong, he's etc. And then I watched everything. I think Kelvin said that he had one fight where he didn't feel right, and he knew it was his own doing. To not feel right is to fail yourself. It's not some excuse. And I think he said it was Woodley. Yeah. Other than that, he knows how to get the most out of himself. And Chris hasn't necessarily done that. So you start to picture Weidman, the better fighter or the higher end, bigger guy, whatever categories you want to put. A fully on point Kelvin Gastelum can beat a compromised Chris Weidman for sure, and a fully on point Conor McGregor, never having boxed, not an MMA fighter, can he beat a somewhat compromised Floyd Mayweather?
The
assignment is still
the odds are probably still, you know,
against him.
Not just against him, like just crazy odds, and that's still true, and it has to be if you're knowledgeable on the sport and everything.
Yeah.
But I still give Conor a chance.
Yes.
You know,
that's all he wants.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He's like, if I have a chance on the night, I can do it.
Yeah, and he does have that because
it's fucking crazy.
It's happening, and it's not a puncher's chance that he has. It's a Conor McGregor chance that he has of getting it done. It is still a crazy fight, and it's insane that it's happening. But I'm not going to pretend I'm not very, very excited for this. You know.
So, if we accept the idea that we need Floyd at his worst, that's an easy way to phrase it. You know, not at his best. Then part of the job becomes to create that in him, to influence him in such a way that he is compromised. And that becomes part of the job. And if that's part of the job, and much of that is being done publicly, people are going to get sucked right into every word that is said and every, you know, physical dynamic between these two.
Yeah, you know? I mean, but so much of that stuff is going to be happening where we don't see it. You know, it's Floyd at home. Yeah. And what's he really thinking? You know, like, does he really think this is just he could do it with one hand tied behind his back kind of thing? Is that really what he's thinking? No matter what. So is he struggling to get himself really up for it properly, where he needs to be switched
and when he
on.
just pushes it down to don't be ridiculous, and every now and again it creeps into his head, what if all of that,
or is he getting an emotionally charged? But Conor's going to embarrass him in the press conferences. Connor's hilariously funny. And Floyd's trash talking is, it's
rudimentary.
Everyone says he's so good.
It's kind of old school.
He does a lot of stuff, but he's not. It wouldn't make me laugh that much, So he's not going to be able to hang with Conor in that live, one-on-one, that kind of way.
That's the
so he shouldn't try
Jimmy
to.
Fallon and the new kid on YouTube. But those guys don't have to fight. But so one thing I'm just sharing for friends and audience is people will see a 1 or a 2 minute clip or even a 5 minute clip dynamic, and then they'll go, oh, well, if he really thinks that, then this means this. But you're missing 23 hours and 47 minutes or whatever of every day and around that. And I've seen many times, I've discussed it with people, and I've even experienced it myself. You've got 10 minutes on camera, but you're around them for 2 hours. The way I move your chair at a certain time, when I go through the door first and shut it behind me, getting in the front, the shit I say about him while he's there, or ignore him,
just
or
looking bigger.
Exactly. Act a certain way, find out something about somebody. You're missing. And this part is we're putting on a show. And after, even if you got riled up, friends and people around you could go ignore the show. Tomorrow night, or we're doing it in Cleveland tomorrow night, fuck this show, just block it out, put a song in your head. But you can't block out every minute of every day that we're playing this, or that I'm slowly putting chips into it. So all of that's a part of it.
And while that's happening, you're training, like, get away from Conor and Floyd, this is a general thing. You're training, and you got taken down today. And you didn't want to, and that's playing on your mind, and like, what if I make that mistake again? And that's playing on your mind while you're seeing this guy looking good, or
and that thing that's been bothering you, and now it hurts a little more today. Hurts more, and since it hurts more, you maybe didn't get that combination together that you were doing. Now you wonder, that always works, but it's not working today. It's true.
So there's a lot.
That guy looks so confident, and he's walking around like that, and he's making fun of me, and but this is something that we say all the time. That could be you want to make that absolutely meaningless. You want to be in a scenario when we go in to fight that it is meaningless, and that is the part I think that when we're watching it and when we're an audience that we're not necessarily always seeing. Like the fact that, and I actually haven't watched any of The Ultimate Fighter this year. Have you?
I haven't. No,
Mark's watched it, and he said, Cody Garbrandt seems like this, and TJ Dillashaw seems like that. But that could be absolutely meaningless by fight week, fight day, or round 2, or whenever. Like your job is to make that not matter when your guy fights.
It's a big part of my job with when I was working with the fighter, where they have to be honest about all the different stuff that's going on, and it's not just how the opponent is interacting with you; it's how you're interacting with yourself, and how training's going, how everything's going, and so that you get to the point where you can perform to your best on fight night. That's on you. That's it doesn't matter if you look silly in the build up at a certain point, or if none of that stuff should matter really if you're being honest with yourself and you get to that point. And there's loads of examples of that where someone won the mental game in the build up, and then
they won the mental game in a 12-minute scenario that's been played over and over again and may have no reflection on the real dynamic between the two.
Or how the performance in the night's going to be.
Yeah, it's true. So at the time we're recording this, we're like 7 weeks out or more. We're busy, but you think maybe in 2 or 3 weeks after we've seen more, you can come back?
We'll do a little follow up on it for sure.
You ready for tacos?
Yeah.
Thanks. David Mullins, his website is davidmullinsportspsychology.com. He's David Mullins MMA on Twitter. Are you on Instagram?
Not really.
He's not really on Instagram. I'm Robin Black MMA on Instagram. And we do this live on Periscope often as well, so follow me on Periscope. It's Robin Black MMA. Any other last thoughts?
We'll do that next time. I want to talk about BJ Penn and the likes.
Okay.
We're thinking about retirement. during your fighting career is not a bad thing, just despite what Dana White and other people would say.
Okay, so we'll talk about that next time, and I want to talk about it. We'll use what we've seen, what we've learned, whatever we'll have seen since then about BJ Penn. But I am doing a long, I guess 8 or 10 days of observation and interview and even training with George St. Pierre for a documentary. And I want to talk about it in the context of George coming back too. There's a term that I used when I was looking at BJ in round 3. He won round 2, and round 3 he needed to strive and want and have this frenzied desire to win. And I looked at it and I'm like, he wants to want to fight. You know what I mean? And that's something I'm going to talk to George a lot about. I think George is in insane shape. Insane. And his work ethic is nuts. And he's never been athletically better. And he's probably never worked harder. But I want to talk to him. And he seems, regardless of what other people say, the dude seems like the only thing in the world is he wants to fight. But you still have to I want to ask him about it, about, what it is to really want to fight and what it is to want to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a massive difference there, which becomes obvious during and after the fight, but it might not be as obvious to the fighter themselves in the build-up.
Well, we'll bring whatever information from when I get a chance to talk to George. And with George, one of the beautiful things is there's always this really brilliant little undertone, even with, and I'm a friend, and he when people see this documentary, he tells me things that he's never said before, but there's still a little touch of way smarter than people would ever guess, misdirection pointed at, knowing Bisping or whoever else would see it. And that's fascinating too.
Yeah. He was the master for a while. He was the top of the game.
But McGregor, Mayweather, who you got? We'll discuss it more in 3 or 4 weeks. But David Mullins MMA on Twitter and David Mullins sportspsychology.com, and we will see you guys next time.